And hello friends, and I'm here to tell the story of Gideon. Now his story is found in the book of Judges, chapter 6 to 8. Did you know that the Bible mentioned 14 judges? 12 of them are mentioned in the book of Judges. 2 are mentioned in the book of 1 Samuel. Out of these 14 judges, Gideon was one of them. So let's begin his story. The people of Israel stopped obeying God and worshipped idols. So God allowed the Midianites to oppress Israel for 7 long years. Whenever the Israelites planted something, the Midianites would destroy it or take it for themselves. They even stole their cattle and sheep. The Israelites were so scared they ran in caves or other hiding places. They remembered God and cried out to Him. So after the 7 long years, God sent an angel to a young man named Gideon. So the angel of the Lord said to Gideon, "The Lord is with you, you mighty man of valor." Gideon was confused and surprised because he was not a mighty man. He told the angel of the Lord, "I'm not a mighty man. I'm the weakest in my clan and youngest in my family." But the angel of the Lord said to him, "Surely I will be with you, and you shall defeat the Midianites as one man." Gideon wasn't so sure. So he said to the angel of the Lord, "If you're really going to help me, show me a sign. Do not leave until I return." The angel of the Lord agreed and Gideon left. Gideon returned with bread, meat, and broth. So the angel of the Lord said to Gideon, "Put the bread and meat on the rock and pour out the broth." Gideon did so that night, and the angel of the Lord had a staff in his hand. When he touched the food using his staff, the food caught fire, and the angel of the Lord disappeared. So Gideon was filled with wonder. He saw the angel of the Lord face to face. And then God said to him, "Peace be with you. Do not fear. You shall not die." God told Gideon to destroy the altar of Baal, and build a proper altar to the Lord your God. So Gideon did that. He destroyed the Baal's altar and built a proper altar and named it "The Lord is Peace." Gideon destroyed the Baal's altar and built a proper altar named and called it "The Lord is Peace." It still exists today. But Gideon wasn't so sure that he would win the battle. So he asked God for 2 more signs using a fleece. So he asked God, "If you're really going to save Israel by my hand, look, I place a fleece on a threshing floor. If the fleece is wet, but the ground is dry, then I will know that you will rescue Israel by my hand." Now, imagine that you have a piece of cotton in your hand. And then you wet it. See, it's wet. So now I'll place it on the ground. What do you think will happen? Let's see. Oh, the ground is wet as well. So Gideon was asking an impossible sign. but he had to because he was having difficulty to believe that God will help him. And God proved it. The fleece was wet with dew, but the ground was dry. But Gideon still had questions. So he's also thinking that God will be angry with him. So he asked God, "Do not be angry with me, Lord. I pray for one more test, just once more with the fleece. Let the fleece be dry, but the ground can be wet." And God proved it again. Another impossible sign. Now imagine, I take a dry piece of cotton and place it on a wet floor. What do you think will happen? The cotton will be wet as well. But God proved it. The fleece was dry, but the ground was wet. He checked at the back side of the fleece. It was still dry, even though it was touching the ground. Now Gideon was confident. So now it is time for Gideon to choose his army. So, when I say the word army, what do you think of? We think of a big number of soldiers, brave and strong soldiers. Even Gideon was thinking like that. I should have a lot of soldiers, he thought. He gathered up 32,000 men. But what did God say? He said to Gideon, he had too many men. What? Too many men? You got to be kidding me, God. I'm sure Gideon was thinking like that. But he obeyed God. But why does God want Gideon to have a smaller army? Because God wanted to reveal his power. If Gideon won with 32,000 men, the people of Israel will just brag about it and say, "My own hand has saved me." So God doesn't like us when we have pride. So he wanted to reveal his power by making Gideon's army smaller. How did he make his army smaller? Gideon told his army, "Those who are afraid to fight can return home." With that, 22,000 men left, leaving only Gideon 10,000 men. That would mean 2/3 of his army just went poof, gone. But God said to Gideon, "There's still too many men." No, poor Gideon. Too much for him. First, he had 32,000 men. God reduced it to 10,000 men. I'm sure 10,000 men is enough. But why less? He must be thinking. So God told Gideon, "Bring the men to a river, and I will test them for you." So Gideon did that. He brought his men to a river, and then God told him, "Son, I will tell you who should go with you and shoot, and who should not." God told Gideon to send home the people who kept water. So in that time, there were two ways of drinking water from a river. The first way, people will kneel down and drink from the stream using their tongue like dogs. The second way is people kneel down and cup water with their hands and drink. God told Gideon, "Send home the people who cupped water with their hands." And with that, Gideon only had 300 men. Just 300 men. So, if I was in Gideon's place, I would be jumping, wondering, how am I going to win the battle with just 300 men? I'm sure God would be laughing now. He was like, if he was laughing, he would say, "Oh, Gideon." But God calmed Gideon down. One night when he was asleep, God knew that Gideon was still afraid to fight. So he said to Gideon, You and your servant should sneak into the enemy camp and listen to what the Midianites are saying. What they said will make you confident. So Gideon did that. He went with his servant into the enemy camp and listened and heard what the Midianites were saying. Two Midianites were talking about a dream. One Midianite had a crazy dream where a loaf of bread came into the camp and knocked one of the tents flat. His friend told him, "Your dream can mean only one thing. God has delivered us into the hand of Gideon, son of Joash." When Gideon heard this, he was thankful and grateful. God changed the situation. He just changed it completely. The Midianites were supposed to be strong because they were brave and had a lot of men. In the beginning, Gideon was nothing, but at the end, they were scared of Gideon. Now, Gideon was confident that he would win the battle. He divided his men into 3 groups and gave each man a trumpet, a ram's horn, a torch, and a clay jar. When you think about a battle, when I say the word weapons, what do you think of? You think that we should take a sword, a shield, a spear, but they took a ram's horn, a torch, and a clay jar? It seems like they're not going for a battle. It seems they're going for a casual walk. But they walked with the Lord. So they walked towards the enemy camp. And Gideon instructed them to whatever he does, they should follow. So they blew their trumpets, smashed their jars, and shouted, "A sword of the Lord and of Gideon." And you won't believe it. The Midianites were so scared they fled. Some got confused and they were fighting each other. By the time they blew the ram's horn, God caused all of this confusion. That enemy camp was having chaos, and the Israelites gained victory. They won the battle. So this is the story of Gideon. What did you understand from this story? I understood like this. Point number 1. God can choose the weakest and youngest person, just like you and me, to do big things. The second point is God can change any impossible situation. Third point is in a battle, it doesn't depend on human strength, number of people, experience, and weapons. All we have to do is trust God. And if we trust in God, we can win any battle. The fourth point is, it is mentioned in the Bible in the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 1 verse 27. God chooses the foolish things to shame the wise and chooses the weakest to shame the strong. It was just like in the story of Gideon. Gideon was weak. He used weak Gideon to defeat the strong Midianites. God used the foolish people who drank the water like dogs to defeat the Midianites. And that's the story of Gideon. Thank you.